Welcome to the Smite Minor League on this Tuesday morning. This is Taco. I'm Mr. Brightside, I should say it right down there. And we're moving into some exciting action here in Europe today. Taco, I'm actually really excited for this very first matchup that we're going to be taking a look at because the EU SML is a bit more competitive than I expected. This is really close between all these teams.
The EU SML just looks absolutely insane right now when you think about it and all of the talent that is spread amongst every single one of these rosters. But it's Flashpoint and Simplicity who are top of the charts right now. Which may come as a surprise to a lot of people back at home who were probably expecting this OutCold Gaming team to be a little bit more of a European powerhouse.
I think they were also expecting for Emilito to play. So
I think his team might have been too.
Right, exactly. So that might be part of why we're seeing this team having some early struggles. But I hope it doesn't discourage them at all. I mean, this is still a team that's very strong with plenty of talent on it. But I want to make sure that we cover this Queso team too, Taco, because this is a team that has stuck together through thick and thin. This is essentially just the Poppies now playing again here in the SML underneath Alpha Jackal, former coach for Rival. This is a team that has a lot of potential, a lot of synergy. I'm always looking forward to see what they can do.
It's also a team with a lot of history, and I think that is one thing that Team Queso has definitely managed to accomplish throughout the years is it really feels like they kind of just demanded the respect from everybody, and when people weren't choosing to give it to them, well, then they're like, okay, we'll force you to respect us and understand that we are a team that's capable of competing with these veteran players. And I think it's because of the fact that Warchi, Dracomarino, all of these guys have been through the ringer so many times before.
It just feels like the kind of team that has fun playing together, or at least likes playing together. That's why they've stuck together for so long. And this is the kind of split where I think that could really, really benefit them. I mean, they have to worry about the old Optimus Gang roster, they have to worry about this OutCold roster, and then one of our other rosters that's made up of some SML, SPL players. So it really is a close enough match to where this team could still climb back up and be the absolute top team. They certainly could. I think this is the kind of situation where this kind of team can absolutely thrive.
Don't mind me. I was just really enjoying that Checkio highlight for a second there. All that for a last hit on the auto. But more importantly, but the more important factor about everything is that this is a team that for Queso, they have certainly come a long way. And not only that, but I think it's actually super cool seeing a team that chooses to stick together for as long as these guys have. And I know that they've had some adjustments throughout the years, going through all of their team iterations with Poppies and the sorts. But it really is awesome when you see a team that just feels like, hey, well, we might not always win every single set, but we're definitely going to put forth our best effort as a collective unit, and this is just what feels best for us, so we're going to keep continuing it. And I don't know. I have a certain level of respect for teams that are that willing, I think, to focus on the team building aspects.
No, I'm with you, and I think that I'm really focused on a couple of matchups like WorstTurttle and FrostiaK, right? Warchi and PrettyPriMe. How are these two jungle mid matchups going to shake out for these teams? I think that's probably the most important part. We see more often than not the junglers are the highlight players. They might not be the stars in terms of skill, but they're the ones that end up being the stars in terms of impact. So how these two matches in particular shake out could determine the whole set.
I also think that we've seen the most inconsistency probably between these two junglers. In some moments they have their highs, and then in others they have some very intense lows. But
they've both looked like the best and the worst at times.
Yes,
right?
And it happens. I mean, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But at the same time, when you boil it all down, I think that this is a super critical set for both of these teams. For OutCold, this could very well be, I think, their last possibility of keeping their hopes alive for remaining in that top two contestation point for the standings, because Simplicity and Flashpoint both getting off to a pretty hot starts here for the beginning of the European SML. And not only that, but I think OutCold might not have necessarily been expecting to have this much difficulty, I think, with getting wins.
I would be surprised if that was their expectation coming into the season. And you're right, it's getting closer. Someone's going to be 3-1 at the end of the day up at the top of the bracket because the two 2-1 teams are playing each other, which means dropping down to 1-3 is going to make it very, very difficult to climb back up through a competitive field like what we have here in the EU SML. So I think that you're right. This is a critical set for both of these teams to shape really the texture of the rest of this phase for them. We're only in phase 1. These teams are all trying to make it to that invitational that's in between phase 1 and 2, and that's what they're playing for. And a lot of it's hard for me to not put it on the shoulders of Dimi, who we just saw in the highlight right before this, coming back from coaching out of retirement, it felt like, and it doesn't look like he's lost a step to me.
No, Dimi has not skipped a beat in the slightest when it comes to his actual, skill prowess in Smite.
Right.
But I do think that it's incredible when you see somebody who's able to take that much of a step back and then immediately jump back into things. And it's kind of a refreshing look for the team. But I do like the thought process there of FrostiaK maybe looking to just focus on Dimi here. I also wouldn't be too surprised if in the drafting phase we see a little bit of that early game pressure prioritization from OutCold as well.
That's right. These feel like our teams that are closest to what we see in the SPL, so we might see some of those strategies reflected as well as we move into the picks and bans for game number 1. OutCold will be in the first pick selection spot here, and that means Team Queso will be second. And very often, what we see happen in that second pick, Taco, is that they're the ones that have to ban away the Freya and the King Arthur almost every time, because you just can't afford to let either one of those picks through. So I imagine that Queso's bans are going to be fairly normal here. That leaves OutCold with the option to kind of ban away some priority stuff from Team Queso they don't want them to play.
I definitely think that OutCold has the advantage here in that first pick position, because for me, I think a lot of the members of Queso kind of have their 1 to 3 god pick choices that they're not only most comfortable on, but I think most proficient on. For WorstTurttle, taking away that Arachne, I think, is a really big hit towards Team Queso's early game potential. Not only that, but the removal of the Agni as well. Shots fired entirely to Warchi. They're trying to make him stretch out that god pool as much as possible. More importantly, they just don't want Warchi to be permitted that area denial, I think, from the bombs and all the other stuff that Agni can definitely cause havoc in the jungle with.
Yeah, he can also build Divine Ruin so efficiently, right? Agni's just one of those gods that can do so much for your team. You definitely don't want to deal with him, so get him out of there. On Team Queso, though, they've thought that Naja is the god they can't deal with, even more so than King Arthur. And not just King Arthur, but King Arthur almost certainly in the hands of Dimi, Ninja Dimi at one point. I mean, one of the best we've had play. That's a scary thought to me if I'm on Team Queso.
And it's only getting scarier with that Fafnir pickup, possibly alluding to a double hunter composition even. I know that a lot of teams, I think, have really been prioritizing attack speed based compositions so they can have better objective shred and better objective burn. And with the Xbalanque coming into play here, that's only that's only making me double down on that thought process.
Yes, these are about the top priority picks in every role that they've been able to grab so far on the side of OutCold. To your point about the auto attackers, I think that's why we see the Arachne built out. Those gods that can build through the Katana tree and skip boots are very strong right now, so that's one more thing that maybe OutCold were considering as they ban that one out. As now Janus comes through for Team Queso. So these are strong picks, but not necessarily the top meta picks. It really feels like to me Team Queso came into this one with a game plan, and if AlphaJack had his hands on it, then I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
And AlphaJackal is somebody who's also probably going to understand the mindset involved behind OutCold Gaming a little bit better than most, having so much SPL experience to coach, and now bringing that over into Team Queso's drafting phase. The one big concern that I have so far for Team Queso is that Sol and Janus, they can both be strong in an individual aspect, but my concern here is there's just not a whole lot of early game presence so far from Team Queso. There is a lot of survivability and heavy mobility from Queso's draft, which I think is going to be super important in order to escape OutCold Gaming during the collapse period of that Xbalanque ult.
Yeah, if they can, especially if they can reposition during that Fafnir, or maybe wait out some of that Dragonic Corruption, which is not too hard to do when you have those Janus portals, I think that could be strong as well. That's an excellent point, Taco, as Serqet comes in, likely to try and give them some anti-heal, some true damage going into this King Arthur, who can be hard to slow down. I do want to point out, OutCold banned away the Artio too, often thought of as a very good matchup, a good counter pick into the King Arthur, so that's smart from them to take that off the table.
Just didn't want to have to worry about that cripple field, especially when you factor in the cripple field would have impacted a lot more than just the Arthur from OutCold Gaming. Camazotz as that final pick selection here for Team Queso. I'm believing that this is a Serqet in the support role for Dracomarino, and Camazotz in the jungle, and Vamana for the solo lane matchup. But facing off, I mean, big thing, of course, is just going to be the fact that Team Queso is really lacking in their hard crowd control. I think that might come back to bite them if they're not careful early on.
Can they find that lockdown? That does appear to be the question for Team Queso. And can they shut down Demi's King Arthur? We're about to find out. Tom and Toli take the call in Game 1.
Thanks a lot, Finch. Thanks a lot, Taco. As Finch said, Tom and Toli on the commentary. And, of course, Doug backing us up on the observation. But OutCold Gaming here, they do get the King Arthur one more time. Draco will be okay. Draco will be playing that Serqet support, but A little bit of a switch up. The Janus Jungle coming out from WorstTurttle.
It's a little interesting to see the Janus over there because normally you want to have like Vamana there, right? Simply because he has a high amount of burst damage that's easily confirmable with his sneeze. You really can't miss that ability. But Janus, the difference between Janus and Vamana in the jungle is that Janus using thresholds, using portals, relying on that passive, giving him more mobility. So he'll just be able to get from jungle to jungle faster.
Is a relatively popular pro league strategy that we've seen time and time again, where the support player comes over and just sort of harasses the enemy jungle. Right there, you see all of a sudden the Serqet winds up using some of the slowdown relic, and then it forces FrostiaK's bead. So, I mean, the support player winds up losing a bunch, but if you can kind of stop the jungler from getting off to a good start, that's the mentality.
HalfDevil was trying to invade the red buff, just now getting experience from his own red buff. He had 0 experience per minute, which means he didn't get a single minion at the enemy red buff, wasting a lot of time in his own right, sacrificing a whole wave of experience to allow Spudio playing the Xbalanque to get it for himself, which is a good look if you're playing the Xbalanque. You want to get escalated to that late game, get higher level branching bolas, be able to start boxing against this magical ADC that Chekio is playing.
So for right now, Dracomarino still on the right side of the map, trying to harass Dimi. Well, the Serqet support, not something that we haven't seen. Well, certainly a character that makes sense. Big taunt, the ultimate not only shoves players displacement, but also true damage, so you don't have to be building power for that. And of course, the passive is percentage. So you don't have to be doing power for that either.
There's definitely method to the madness of the Serqet support for all those reasons that you mentioned. The only thing that I'm kind of discouraged from seeing is that there's too much single target damage from Queso outside of this Janus and Sol, as well as lacking a little bit of crowd control, or at least AoE crowd control.
Another taunt coming out from Dracomarino. Now the zigzag onto the, again, the jungle Bakasura. Interesting change as HalfDevil joins the party. Warchi down to half HP on the mid lane. Vamana, by the way, stunned out. And no time rift for the follow-up, so Warchi's still alive for now. Umbrella Ring will miss, and that likely means a retreat from Team Queso.
Just a whole bunch of shenanigans in this mid lane. And I think that Queso is at a point now where they're just considering trying to throw curveballs at their oppositions by going for this Camazotz in the solo lane, very close to killing Dimi.
Oh, there's the dot, the kill. Julio with the first blood for Team Queso. Perhaps most importantly, against the King Arthur. You take a look at the itemization. He has yet to get the healing online from the Glad Shield. It's a big important reason why Julio was able to confirm that kill.
It's just so easy for a Camazotz that's landing your Vampiric Bats to get the poke and the sustain. Currently, Dimi without Gladiator Shield is not at the same caliber as King Arthur with Glad Shield, so he can't really spam as often as he would like. He can't match the sustain as a result, since it's Gladiator Shield versus Gladiator Shield. Once the Gladiator Shield is, Warrior's Blessing versus Warrior's Blessing, whereas once that bridge item is complete, that's when Arthur's really going to pop off. That 10% cooldown reduction is going to matter. The only problem now for Dimi is that Julio reached that marker first by getting that first blood, having that extra bounty, completing it with a huge power spike. Dimi didn't want to fall too far behind. He opted for the boots 1 upon his back.
Another invade coming out from Team Queso. To continue on that conversation there about the solo lane, Toli. You know, it's interesting. Julio is going to want to be building tanky, as he does have a Glad Shield himself. Will likely continue to go tanky, but I'm curious if we'll see a Brawler's Beat Stick, actually.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised, but at the end of the day, either one of them could really do it if they wanted to. I think that Julio, in any other matchup against King Arthur, outside of King Arthur, he would probably be rushing the Mage's Blessing. It's kind of his style in the solo lane, but you need to get that Warrior's Blessing because there's just too much damage coming from the King.
Well, the reason that I bring up the Brawler's Beat Stick is because Camazotz has that dot, which means he's going to be able to spread it and stick on the target. The anti-heal will stay on the target for a long time because of the nature of the damage over time ability. So because of that, I'm starting to really like this idea. I see that the first kill came, but it's pre-Glad Shield, so you take it with a grain of salt. I am curious how this matchup is going to work out, though, for Julio in the long run.
And on the opposite end, Dimi is going to be doing a lot of ticks with his spin to win. So about 5 to 6 ticks, you take that away from the King Arthur. You're going to be having an easier time from this Camazotz. all of the first blood shenanigans after that is giving another pool as well to Julio, so he's going to be able to really control this matchup, hitting level 6 before Dimi.
Well, let's take a second look at this first blood, and yeah, they're just battling it out here, and the Batman just, he misses the heal off of the jump, but Dimi still knows that he's toast as soon as those bats come up, so that's just a well-taken fight from Julio.
Even WorstTurttle was around the corner just for good measure in case there needed to be a cleanup. I like the communication thus far from Queso. They need to make these kinds of plays if they want to get one step above OutCold Gaming.
Well, right back in, and we're going to start it off hot with Dimi. Taking a whole bunch of player damage right there. Nice setup from WorstTurttle on the jungle Janus one more time. Ultimate coming out to provide him and Julio a way out. And he's gone. So when it comes down to it, the jungle Janus is something that we've seen before. I understand it. The camp clear is relatively high. The mid lane Vamana is a little bit rough for me, especially seeing this the Blackthorn hammer. So we saw a Pele mid, and whenever I see the middle laners venture away from the mage class, I want that AoE damage. And so Warchi kind of brings that on the Vamana, but kind of not. The problem is here, Toli, is that I want my mid laner to be all offensive. I'm not sure we're going to get that.
Wow, that was really close to finding a kill. PrettyPriMe forced to use the beats after the last breath, getting off the rewind just in the nick of time. And you were talking about Warchi playing this Vamana, but hold that thought because HalfDevil wants to go in.
He's going to get stunned out, he being Warchi, brought down to 40%, but a quick stun. I absolutely thought that was going to be a team fight too, Toli.
I thought so.
OutCold Gaming, interesting enough. Would you say that was a missed opportunity? Were they
Not
too
necessarily, because you would have to commit the Fafnir ultimate.
Right.
And maybe you might have to dive the tier 1 tower, but without the ultimate from Dracomarino, that's a pretty comfortable position to be in.
I agree with that one for sure. And I think that's exactly what we saw. Like OutCold Gaming tried to jump in and then realized that everything wasn't kind of in their favor. So Team Queso not able to make it happen. Warchi dashing onto the towers. HalfDevil just in mid lane harassing everyone.
And the thing about Vamana in the mid lane that you were talking about, he has a little bit of AoE damage, but it's not the same style as a typical magical damage dealer. He's more about the lane poke than anything else. Dimi not really winning this trade. Julio has a bigger burst of sustain through his vampire bats. Can we look at what Julio is maxing out? It should be the second ability.
Yeah, I think,
no,
it's going to be the Screech, just allowing him to have that ability to clear the wave a little bit easier. And what we're seeing, though, you see how he has 2 points here in the Devour. That's the heal per hit, and that's what you're going to see really come out of Julio.
I thought for sure.
in trouble. There's the ultimate to deal with Julio, but Julio just takes to the sky. Camazotz excels against the Bakasura as well because of the trade there. Dimi takes a big chunk, but so does WorstTurttle.
Uh-oh.
HalfDevil's just waiting.
Got it.
Oh! HalfDevil with the support kill onto the jungle Janus.
I like those sneaky plays. Positioning matters quite heavily in Smite. And whenever you could allow the play to naturally develop and come to you instead of forcing it, sometimes it's better to be patient than forcing things.
Spudio certainly helps out there with the Xbalanque ultimate. Team Queso looking for the red buff invade. A little too slow as FrostiaK's already been here, but PrettyPriMe will accelerate way on out. So when we talk about tanks, this is a topic that is rarely broached when it comes down to Smite. There's different ways to be tanky. You look at characters like Nike, and they just have all the HP in the world. You look at characters like Bacchus, and they have pure mitigations, right? Some of the characters bring protections to the table. And then you have this idea of sustain tank. There's nothing necessarily that makes Camazotz extra tanky, but he heals so much that it has the same effect. We're talking about effective health here. HalfDevil wishing he had some of those tools, but a back off from Team Queso. And so while Julio isn't necessarily extra tanky versus other characters, his ability to heal allows him to be sort of cover that gap.
And there's also evasion tactics. When he uses his ultimate, he can go in, buy a lot of time, use the Devour jump to heal up, use the Vampire Bats to heal up, and then also use his get out of hell kind of ultimate to be able to buy even more time to allow those other 2 healing cooldowns to come back up and go for round number 2.
Now the problem that people have playing against King Arthur is the fact that, well, he's relatively tanky, but he also, with the Glad Shield and a ton of healing in the kit, Julio is able to match that healing, I believe, with the combination of the Vampire Bats, the Glad Shield himself, and the Devour. I think this is some really nice tech coming out from Team Queso, returning to the solo lane Camazotz that we've seen once upon a time to deal specifically with this choice.
And the thing was, Dimi was boxing Julio without fully finished boots, sitting only at tier 2 version. There's a huge power spike for Julio to be able to win these trades, a level advantage as well. This is the point where Dimi can no longer really box 1v1. He's always going to be that half item behind, that half level behind as well. So he's going to need to just farm safely under his tower, maybe look for some back camps every now and then, and just rely on the assistance of his jungler from time to time.
The ultimate from the Janus is going to come through, allowing Team Queso to join the fray on the left-hand side. And again, the timing impeccable. Red buff here. Last time FrostiaK was able to confirm it. The scrum over the red buff seems messy. Now here's the jump on top. Dracomarino with the ultimate on a FrostiaK, forcing him out. Warchi shows up with the ultimate. And that'll send OutCold Gaming running.
I'm surprised that they just didn't commit the Serqet ultimate to HalfDevil after using Draconic form. The Serqet, oh, hold that thought. Spudio just out of range of that Supernova. But the Serqet support, PrettyPriMe.
Under the table. Prime pushed under. Number 2 here for Team Queso. Right back to the solo lane. I love this fight.
Yeah, they're just constantly going at it at this point, trying to look for any advantage. Reinforced Greaves, surprisingly, from Dimi, trying to get more tanky. You mentioned all those dots that come through, and that's going to be very easy to build up the stacks.
Yeah, I love the choice of the tank boots, but look at this. Julio is moving out of the way of the dashes as to not proc that Glad Shield, and then able to provide the damage. And look at the healing if he even gets it. Dimi with some juke shoes. One more shot will do it. Screech is not going to hit. The jump is out of range as well. The dots! Oh. The dots! The dots! Dimi goes down to the hand of the Batman.
And when you know the Camazotz ultimate is up, and when you're that low, you're just asking for trouble. Dimi was asking quite a considerable amount of questions to Julio, like, what do you want to do? Like, boxing? And the answer was, yes, I do want to box. Having tier 2 version now of this Void Shield, Julio is always going to be one step ahead, and Dimi wanting to rely on that Gladiator Shield a little bit too much. I think he's overvaluing the amount of sustain that this item is giving him.
Well, Camazotz is a character that is built around sustain. I mentioned the value of EH, effective health, and it gets all really mathy, but at the end of the day, the character is built around sustain. Glad Shield is just a happy accident for King Arthur.
Warchi wanting to get a little bit of poke, receives 75% of his own health in return. I don't think the Vamana sneeze is that valuable to try to put yourself out of position. PrettyPriMe was willing to get himself stunned out just for this time stop. He has his own way of sustaining himself during the first tick of his accelerate, giving himself a little bit of extra health over time.
The science of the composition, the chemical makeup of the comp is always interesting to think about. Dracomarino chasing on Spudio. The standard composition, tanky solo laner, glass cannon assassin in the jungle, AoE damage in the mid, glass cannon again, frontline support, and a glass cannon hunter. That's generally the go about. Recently, we've seen some half-tanky junglers, right? So you have 2.5 frontline. What you've got here for Team Queso, so you've got a tank in the mid lane, you've got a pseudo-tank in the solo lane, you've got your regular mage, your mid lane mage in the jungle, you've got a tank assassin. I feel like we are missing a little bit of damage here for Team Queso.
I love what WorstTurttle did there. Oh no, but he took his own portal going backwards, and that's going to spell an early spell. No, he got it.
Just kidding. Janus will tag in Chekio. Spudio falls down for the 4th time this contest. Nice little play there, despite the mistake going through the portal.
Well, I liked it at first because he kind of stutter-stepped, baiting out the poison darts.
Right.
Beautifully done through the wall, but then he goes through the portal, he comes back out. I guess he placed up, he was getting body blocked from the through space and time portal, so he had to manually put a portal there, but the positioning of the exit was exactly the same as the entrance of the other one.
Wow. Gold Fury goes the way of Team Queso here, 14 minutes in. Okay, everything's been coming up Queso so far, and I think it's been a very, very, very well played game. They've been making these ganks on the left side, specifically around this red buff. They employed the very pro league-esque strategy of the jungle harass by way of the support, and now they're just leveraging their power here in the middle lane. Warchi's able to dive this tower because he's the tanky mid lane Vamana for some reason. Team Queso wrapping around on the left-hand side, and WorstTurttle from the jungle takes care of PrettyPriMe with the fat Janus ult.
Everyone had their backs turned to that angle. Good tanking of the tier 2 tower coming out of Warchi. He did take a spill, but at the end of the day, it's a 2-for-1, and they grant themselves a tier 1 tower in that dual lane. Tier 1 in the middle tower getting cleaned up also by the minions.
Portal provided to you by WorstTurttle. And so looking at where Julio's going, you know, I said I was kind of worried about the damage output. Well, if Julio goes into this hybrid build, this Void Shield and this Enchile build, then I think we're in a situation where even though everything's in the quote-unquote wrong spot, you still have a complete breakfast. You've got your mid lane mage, he's in the jungle. You've got your solo lane tank, well, he's in the mid. You've got your hybrid damage and frontline, well, he's in the solo. You got your pure support, which is the Serqet, which might make you scratch some heads, but welcome to Season 6. We play assassin support. And then your hunter, well, even that's a little weird because it's a soul. But at the end of the day, everything, you've got your balanced composition. Things are just in different spots, and I'm all here for it.
And this has been successful because of their early game lead. I still like OutCold Gaming's draft a little bit better because of their teamfight potential, having Fafnir for HalfDevil synergizing with the attack speed from PrettyPrime's Chronos.
And FrostiaK.
Spudios as well. Can't forget FrostiaK on the Bakasura jungle. He's going to rely on that attack speed. Interesting build coming out of him. As opposed to stacking all the blades, he actually will commit to the Ninja Tabi. Normally, we're seeing more Bakasuras these days ignore it because of the elixir of speed.
Oh, WorstTurttle with the blink after the ultimate. Nice Aegis here from Spudio. Lights will turn out. WorstTurttle and his Hunter Mage will make sure the lights really go out. Jekio will trade. FrostiaK picks up kill number 3 for OutCold Gaming. But Team Queso up almost an easy 5,000 gold. Warchi's here, but he has help from Dimi. That's going to keep him at bay. Dracomarino can't find the taunt, and Dimi still chasing down that mid lane. Vamana, here comes Julio. The bats land, but the Screech doesn't, so that should be a safe Bakasura.
Just not in range. Unfortunate for Chekio as he took a trade 1-for-1 there. The portal coming out of WorstTurttle, just not having the cooldowns necessary. Julio going to take a little bit of poke as he tried to dive onto FrostiaK, but he didn't have the range quite necessary. Not much to do on the left side of the map, considering that the Gold Fury was taken about 4 minutes ago, so I need to wait another minute for that one.
And another successful invade. Team Queso have repeatedly gotten this red buff time and time again, and that's been a large part of why they've been allowed to kind of keep this lead. Vamana finds himself 2 levels above the opposition. PrettyPriMe only level 13. That has a lot to do with the red buff starvation. Not even because Team Queso is getting the experience. They're usually 3-man, 4-man splitting this red buff, but they're denying it to PrettyPriMe, and that's why you see the experience so lopsided on the red side of the map.
I will give Queso some credit to their composition, because whenever you can force the enemies from building items that doesn't do well with the god that they're playing, you're doing something right. And as a result, we're seeing the Winged Blade pickup out of PrettyPriMe. That item specifically is not ideal for the DPS. This is a pure survival item. Health, movement speed, the passive to give himself more movement speed when he gets slowed out from potentially the threshold, the umbrella ring. It's all survival tactics coming out of this Chronos, and that's going to hurt his power, his damage over time that he's going to be doing in these team fights when he's just literally trying to survive to get the rewind off.
Dracomarino going to see if he can force PrettyPriMe into that rewind. Just a little taunt here as he looks to the back camps. Hey, what a surprise. Red buff about to respawn. Team Queso coalescing around that little cove. OutCold Gaming is ready. Dimi, FrostiaK, PrettyPriMe, and HalfDevil all here with Spudio in the wings. Mid lane fight between Dimi and Julio. It's transition from the short side of the mid lane. Red buff has spawned, and here's the team fight.
Looking for a little bit more. There it goes in the backline. Spudio forced to retreat after the last breath. Chekio trying to retreat, but I don't think FrostiaK is going to let that happen.
He's on the chase, but the good portal gets the jungle Janus out of trouble. Now Chekio walks onto his own ultimate, and Dracomarino will pick up 2. 9 kills in total for the cheesy Titans. Now looking for some more. HalfDevil jumps over the wall, and Team Queso again. Attention to timers. They go in when the red buff is up. They take care of business, and now they look directly at the Primal Fury. They'll put some gold in their pocket. They'll get the 5% jungle buff, and they'll look for more later on.
Chekio, the MVP of that last team fight. Not only did he narrowly survive, but getting off the supernova stopped FrostiaK in his tracks completely. And then the cleanup damage from Dracomarino for the last hits. Very rare to see a Serqet support last hit without the last breath, but hey, whatever happens for Queso, they're not going to be complaining about it when they're being rewarded the Primal Fury after the fact.
HalfDevil being chased down by Warchi, very tanky support player, but he is only level 12, so Warchi cuts him down to about 75. Nice healing coming out from HalfDevil right there. As we look at 20 minutes on the clock here, Team Queso has amassed a 6,000 gold lead, and the question that I ask is really around this mid lane Vamana. I don't love this pick, but now that we're in the mid game, nothing really matters. Julio forcing the ult, Warchi's going to show up, and that be that. I really question OutCold Gaming's mid laner selection here. PrettyPriMe plays a fantastic Chronos, but this lead that Warchi has would not have been here if you go with a more clear-oriented mid lane mage.
I agree. I think for sure. Hold that thought, though, as Warchi trying to survive. Julio can only be an innocent bystander watching his mid laner go down, and this is the problem with Vamana in general against the Bakasura. That true damage from the Butcher Blades is at least OutCold Gaming rewarded with a Pyromancer. And you were so right talking about how Vamana isn't the catalyst for the success from Queso, but because of the early game success from Julio, from WorstTurttle out farming Dracomarino at the right place at the right time, Vamana hit his power spike play that he needed to hit, where that enabled him to make that 14-minute tier 2 tower dive, killing out PrettyPriMe with the assistance of that through space and time.
If this Chronos is virtually any other character that doesn't have such a hard time clearing the wave in the early game, I don't think we see Vamana get off to a start, and OutCold Gaming could keep him down. Chekio again in trouble. Uses the ultimate on himself. Stop time already used, and here comes help. WorstTurttle shows up, providing Chekio an exit and himself.
Dracomarino going in, wants to go into somebody. PrettyPriMe actually going to get taken out before the rewind. This level 20 Janus bringing in the pain.
Soul Reaver, or excuse me, Soul Gem coming through in the clutch there. I think big damage came out from that single unstable vortex. Now the chase down, FrostiaK knocked up by Warchi. Dimi just walking into a whole bunch of players, but this is a different squad. Here comes Julio, the blink forward, but the body blocks are good. The ultimate will not confirm the kill onto Dimi. FrostiaK still in trouble, and Warchi just barreling forward. The single support, HalfDevil, he's going all the way down, and Dimi cut down as well from WorstTurttle. Tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, looking like it's going to be toasted. That'll be 1,500 in the pocket, and Team Queso one more time get the objective and retreat safely.
Whether it's mid Janus or jungle Janus, Janus is still going to do Janus things, portaling through to get those cleanup kills for those lazy backs. Dimi not at the right place at the right time, but then starting things off right with that surprise burst damage onto PrettyPriMe. Even with Winged Blade, having that extra health wasn't enough against the Soul Jump proc, even the Soul Reaver out of WorstTurttle.
Oh, it was a combination. Now Soul Reaver online. 4-1-4 for the Jungle Janus, and Fire Giant threatened by FrostiaK and Prime from the backline, but it's all about Team Queso. FrostiaK knocked up and knocked down. Warchi on the good side of both of those. And Dracomarino chasing Spudio while the rest of his team in the wings. Nice dash usage there. And the right side tower will be the target here for Team Queso. 23.5. They're up 10 kills. And they're up almost 10,000 gold.
This is a good spot for them to be in because their record tied with OutCold Gaming at 1-2 apiece, and this is going to help them separate them. If they can find a victory here, get a good momentum swing going into game number 2. If they keep throwing curveballs like this, I don't know how OutCold Gaming can handle it, because they wanted to play a little bit safer with their composition, and Queso really exploited that safety by controlling that early game. Julio finding the first blood onto Dimi, I think, is what really set the pacing of this game. Not just because of the kill, but it also gave the boost of confidence for the rest of his teammates to maybe feel a little bit better.
You know, I got to agree, Toli, and we've been watching a number of teams try and tackle this King Arthur situation. Team Queso doing kind of well here. Looking at the mid lane now, the right side Phoenix cut to half, so Queso reassessing their entry point. But a lot of teams have been employing executes to just try and, well, you don't have to kill Arthur all the way down, just do some of it and take him out early. But I love Team Queso's just back to the drawing board and you know what? We're going to try and out-sustain him. That's exactly what they do with the selection of Julio, and they bring Camazotz out. Now they're trying to close the game out. HalfDevil transforms, sends Shekio back to the back of the team fight.
HalfDevil leading the charge, stunning out Julio, taking a lot of damage, a double stun as well, narrowly being able to go through the portal in the ultimate. That looked hilarious, I'm not gonna lie. I thought, did he just fly over there? Technically he did. But.
Big baby. Big baby. Wonderful play by Team Queso again, but it's the back to the drawing board style of trying to out-sustain the King Arthur that I'm so impressed with. Totally, we've seen console league teams, we've seen pro league teams,
yes.
And I don't think anybody has really taken this approach. I think Team Queso has been one of the best teams to look at fight against King Arthur.
Well, teams have been trying in terms of RDO sustain, but it's a double-edged sword where it's not only the sustain, but more importantly the cripple
exactly
of the RDO, whereas there's no cripple for Julio, but this is just straight up single target damage, out-sustaining with 2 different kinds of abilities. So when RDO is not available, even though it was in this game, still Camazotz was the selection because
I love it
seems like Queso feeling very confident. Julio is one of those players that is willing to take risks in his God selections, in his builds from time to time because he feels confident mechanically, even against a 2-time world champion such as Dimi.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that Dimi is no slouch. Dimi is one of the best players in this European minor league. And to be able to take this strategy, very impressive. Very, very impressed. It reminds me of when your old team beat the Khepri. Khepri was destroying the meta once upon a time when you guys were playing, and Dignitas figured it out, and they just beat Khepri. I haven't seen teams do that against Arthur yet, and I think this out heal strat might just be it.
Okay, so looking for the left side Phoenix Siege, a nice little double knock-up. Dimi trying to make some plays happen. Chekio very low in the background. Warchi just getting chopped on.
Turtle's got to do something. He's just outside the team fight. I understand the mentality is launch and ultimate when appropriate, but he hasn't been able to find that.
I think they could have waited a little longer for this whole fire minion wave to get closer to the Titan room. A missed opportunity, but still safe is Queso at the end of the day. Not losing a single member.
Yep.
Fire Giant buff just now fading away. It was the normal Fire Giant buff, not the enhanced version. So this time around, when they go for round 2 in about 45 seconds, it should be a little easier for them. WorstTurttle, that last encounter, wanted to wait for the perfect opportunity to engage.
Right.
But OutCold Gaming wasn't showing any loopholes for that to be exploited.
And here's the thing. If he's virtually any other character, and this isn't really a knock against the Janus jungle, if he's virtually any other character, he can kind of go in there. But WorstTurttle at the time, if you don't get the perfect through time and space, you don't win the team fight. You have to hit at least somebody, and if you hit 2 people, you might just win the game. So I understand the discipline there, kind of waiting it out.
So I think that, yeah, hitting it definitely wins you the game, but I think if you miss it, you don't necessarily lose your team the game or lose the team fight. As long as you can enable somebody to use those portals while it's up, maybe allow Warchi to go through those portals in the Colossal Fury form and really start creating havoc for PrettyPriMe and Spudio.
OutCold Gaming played well against that by stepping forward, not allowing themselves to get flanked, just taking the team fight. So really well played by OCG here. Team Queso have the Fire Giant down to half. They peel, now looking for the team fight. HalfDevil down to half as well. Warchi, well, it's the same situation. Everybody not so healthy. The fight is going the way of OutCold. FrostiaK takes care of the support Serqet. Meanwhile, WorstTurttle forced out on the right-hand side. Now the collapse onto Dimi, knocked up by Warchi, but still not enough to find the kill. And Team Queso on the retreat.
The rewind from PrettyPriMe got him just narrowly out of that danger zone. Needs to respect Julio, trying to cancel out some of these backs. I don't think Queso is going to allow this to go freely, despite losing the one member. They're the ones looking for the plays. WorstTurttle avoiding it out. Warchi using that dash. HalfDevil very low.
And Warchi low as well. PrettyPriMe on the chase, and PrettyPriMe does come up clean. Taking care of the mid lane Vamana. FrostiaK takes care of Soul as well. So 3 players down for the count. Draco will be respawning as he was killed earlier.
This is OutCold Gaming defending a Fire Giant buff while right side Phoenix respawn while being down 12,000 gold.
Yep.
Give credit to OutCold Gaming for a remarkable defense. A lot of that came down to the hesitation from Queso. It didn't seem like they had a couple of ideas of what they wanted to do, and they were trying to do a little bit of too much of everything instead of just one idea. Once we saw HalfDevil go in, the call was to reset the Fire Giant, but it was already at like 20% health, and the chances of a Fafnir stealing it, next to none. Dracomarino took an early spill, and when HalfDevil transforms, he needs to be the primary target.
Dracomarino's here, and he's just going to get killed. Fire Giant.
Oh no, FrostiaK.
FrostiaK dies
Just
to
wait.
the Fire Giant.
Just
HalfDevil's
wait.
in trouble as well. Oof.
Just wait outside the ring. Like, you have a Serqet dot on you. Clearly, that was going to be lethal at that point. Just really worried, I guess, about anyone that was chasing him. But without an Aegis, you're just dead to right there.
Oh, Team Queso. For all the credit we just gave OutCold Gaming defending their Phoenixes and the Fire Giant, Team Queso deserved just as much for that stagger right there.
Good play from Dracomarino with the last breath that actually knocked up FrostiaK, and that damage was very important to get through. But that death from FrostiaK could have been avoided. It was like just such an unnecessary death.
Right now, Team Queso looking for control of the Fire Giant once again. Just over half hour of play here. Team Queso 1 kill shy of doubling OutCold Gaming's 8. 12,000 gold lead, but we'll focus less and less on that as the game continues to trudge forward. All of our players will be able to have maximum itemization relatively soon.
It's all about vision control, as Queso needs to make sure that once they try this next objective, which they should try having this kind of a gold lead, that they make the right call next time. Last time, they staggered a little bit. I think the next call should be like, once HalfDevil transforms into that dragon, just go on him, honestly. Drop Chekio's ulti on him, drop the last breath on him, take him out of the equation. Don't allow those AoE coerces to be a factor for FrostiaK, PrettyPriMe, and Spudio to really start utilizing.
Always going to love a good Witchblade pickup. I think this is, if you've ever needed someone to tell you when to buy Witchblade, this is it. Double Hunter and an attack speed based character in the jungle, yes, buy a Witchblade. Again, shout outs to Julio for just continuously crushing the situation. Right itemization, right gameplay against the King Arthur. No deaths thus far. Very high in the player damage. 2nd for his team, 4th overall. Really loving Julio's play here in this game number 1.
It's going to be difficult for OutCold Gaming to hold it this time around. The way Queso was playing it, looking for some poke damage from a distance. Julio has more distance than Dimi. Chekio going to throw out some stellar bursts from time to time. Expect Warchi dropping those umbrella rings. And there's always got to be that one instance that you have to worry about through space and time out of WorstTurttle. It's a lot of damage. Like,
yeah,
wow.
WorstTurttle is swinging. Soul Reaver, Soul Gem, not even on the proc, I don't think. Plus the Rod of Tahuti, 150 power.
They're going in, Tom. They're going to commit this time.
HalfDevil, there's the transformation. That forces Team Queso to back off just a little bit. They want to play in the jungle, but they have HalfDevil's ult.
2 ultimates being used because also Darkest of Nights out of Spudio really throwing a loop there from Queso's side of things. But look what Dracomarino is doing. You know he wants it because he has his ultimate.
He's going to jump forward. Here's trouble for PrettyPriMe. Warchi gets stunned. Now everybody looking at Warchi. HalfDevil cut down to 25%. Bop, bop, says Julio. 3 kills without a death. Chekio takes care of FrostiaK as well. PrettyPriMe on the run. Julio gonna miss the screech, but the squad is here. The Phoenix has already been taken down. It will go down much easier this time. PrettyPriMe goes down just as hard as the Phoenix. 3 players sitting out for 30+ seconds, Toli. This could be it. This will be it.
Oh, yeah.
The
Queso.
Titan attacked by Queso. Game 1.
Queso has dethroned the King Arthur. Dimi not able to really show the highlight of this god. A great performance out of Julio. 3-0-10 at the 33-minute mark. This Camazotz really was like the spoke inside the tire.
I'm very excited. I think that Team Queso have done a really, really big deal. Yeah. Really big thing here, folks. Everybody's been looking for an answer to King Arthur. In this game, Camazotz was it. Is that the big picture? Let's find out.
It certainly could be, Tom, that answer to it, or at least, like you said, it certainly worked here. Finch Taco on the desk after a Game 1 victory for Queso over OutCold. And this team, this SML team, with all this talent on it, their struggles continue, Taco. What was it for you that stood out about Queso's takedown of OutCold here?
Well, for starters, the Camazotz. Julio getting off to such a fantastic start in that solo lane, I think, just alleviated so much pressure from WorstTurtle's shoulders that he was able to just prioritize the duo side of the map for ganks and for just rotations in general that really made things super complicated, I think, for OutCold to try and bounce back into this one. It's just when a Camazotz is able to have this much influence over the solo lane, it just made things too difficult for Dimi. But this is a large part of that risk versus reward situation that you'll often see solo laners having to decide upon when they know that they're going to be going up against King Arthur. I think that this was just a really smart god selection choice for Julio because Camazotz is just a god. He's got self-sustain that can match that of King Arthur, but more importantly, he just doesn't care about those early creep waves, so he can actually afford to brawl early on, and that's what really, I think, caught Dimi off guard. He just might not have been expecting Julio to be so hyper-aggressive, and Julio was just on point with the skill shots.
He certainly looked strong. You saw it there with Dimi. He had only 1 kill that game, and that came at the very end on that Titan defense, so not nearly as much impact from the King Arthur as what we're used to seeing, and I think a lot of that is the Camazotz. I don't know if it's necessarily a blueprint going forward, but someone who can clearly brawl with the King Arthur, is not afraid of that fight, I think is the right direction to move in, and that's what we saw there from Julio. I also want to point out the Bat of the Hell can quite easily keep up with some of Arthur's mobility. That also might be a big impact for not letting him get away from you. But that wasn't the only strange thing here. Janus jungle from WorstTurttle, Vamana mid from Warchi. I mean, they were all over the place with those picks and bans from Game 1.